Sending all some warm, positive vibration. Shout out to all of my early risers. We are in the kitchen, and I thought this morning we would look at some blood building foods, right? That take a body of water, our blood. We have two watery channels, the blood and the lymph. So we're going to take a look at some foods, right? As I move around early, I am quite an early riser for years. I always have, I always will be, because this is the most sacred time of morning where you can really tune into your, what I like to call your own divine onboard intelligence. So it's a time for movement. It's a time to really be reflective. If you're working on or working through something, there's so much clarity to be had early in the morning. So this morning, we'll look at three different blood building foods that are good for the blood, good for iron, also good for our reproductive organs, especially anyone that is a womb carrier. So if you're new to this channel, welcome. I'm Body-Culinary, professional chef and personal trainer with a focus on whole, fresh living and unprocessed foods. If there's going to be any processing, you do it and you keep it to a minimum so you know exactly is what's in the food that is going to become a part of your breast, your womb, your reproductive organs, your vitality. This is health insurance. And on this channel, I share some of my journey of radical self acceptance. And what that looks like and what that has looked like for me is being really creative with these features that I have been divinely assigned, by the way. These are my recent curls, no oil, no nothing. I like them. Some of them, they fall really quickly, so I pin them up. But there's no oil. I washed my hair yesterday and I just rolled it up as I moved around in the sun. It dried out. So this is what I have. It's on with very, very fine, kinky, cottony textured hair, right? So radical self-acceptance. On this channel, I also share three leverage lifestyle practices. And I say that they're leveraged because they give you back so much more for the investment of your time, your energy, and your attention, your time that's spent on the internet. Hopefully, you're getting something back, right? Getting even more back for your investment. That's how you know something is a good investment, if you're getting more back for what you have actually invested. If you don't invest anything, how can you expect to extract something if you're not investing? If you don't make tangible deposits into something, why would you be expecting to extract, right? That's why the garden is fantastic, because it activates so much common sense. So I have three liquids here, and they're all deep red, no dye or anything added to them. So they look very, very similar. So my heart rate monitor out of the way. So three liquids, right? Um, and they're natural liquids. So this one first, we have sorrel, right? Sorrel is fantastic for vitamin C, and it is also known as hibiscus, right? And so this you can have as a tea. Sometimes I call these Caribbean Kool-Aids, because in the Caribbean, folks will have a tendency to add condensed milk and sugar to a lot of medicinal herbs, right? Traditionally, and serve that when people come to visit. So a lot of these traditional teas and herbs have a lot of medicinal properties. So the sorrel has a lot of vitamin C. This is for my bunny. So these two are sorrel. So I had some hot yesterday. I had a little teapot that I made. So warm for hot sorrel. I will have in the morning for my tea, and then we're not wasting anything. So I had some left over. I thought I would just chill it, right? So I don't add sweetener to these. I actually can repurpose and use this for a lot of different things. So this is sorrel. Now, this is actually an herb. This is actually China root, or chine. Sometimes they say chine or Chinese root, right? And it has a deep, dark red color. Now, this is a very interesting herb. Let me see if I can find it. This would be China root. So, but when it boils down, this is the bark. So you can prepare the bark, the stem, the root, and the leaves differently, depending on what you're making. And this is actually, so we have the sorrel, we have the China root, this one, very deep, rich colors. Nature is so fantastic. And then this one is a broth, right? Because I've added more what I call green peas, but my green peas, I'm preparing them a little different. there are some things that actually cannot be eaten raw or living. There's several greens that are highly nutritive that can be found in nature and also in Central America. One of them is chaya. Chaya, you cannot eat it raw. So I prefer whole, fresh, and living unprocessed foods or foods more so with the living water intact and that have been ripened by the sun. But there are several things that you cannot eat raw. One of them, for example, would be chaya, which is a very nutritive green. It is very, very tough, but it also has cyanide in it. So you're going to poison yourself if you eat that raw. The other things in the garden that you also can't, you can eat them raw, but you have to really be familiar with them. Like, let's say, for example, my ackee tree that I planted this year, it has given me the biggest, like really like the first big harvest. And you cannot eat the ackee unless it has ripened fully and fully opened itself to you. If you try to force it open and you eat it, you could. It's another one of those things that can poison you and you can die. If you know how to prepare it and to clean it properly, it can be eaten raw because I've done it several times. Well, or I would like to say living. So we have the sorrel. Again, we have the China root. And then this one here is a broth. So this has fresh turmeric, and it has a deep yellow color. We also put some black pepper, the fresh black peppercorns, in to activate the turmeric. And there's also the beet. If you scrub them really good, the skins of the beet, I also put that in there with some of the chaya, right? So that gives me a deep broth. Look how deeply rich and red these three are. Different types of red, right? The China root is actually used for a lot. So a lot of people here complain about gastritis and indigestion, right? So that's not really an issue for me. But as being something for the womb, right, or for your reproductive organ, I found in my research that this is very good for the reproductive organ. I also found some other interesting stuff out. Like I am a food, nutrition, herb, fitness nerd. Love it. Super exciting. So something that I thought was really interesting on the China root. Let's see if I still have it open. If I can share it with you and make sure I don't mess it up. You can't see the screen, but let's see. Yeah. So it's also called chapchini, right? Or China or Chinese or China root, right? So the chapchini, right? And that this one here, I have several herbs. So I don't want to confuse it by doing too much. Maybe I'll open it so you can see what the bark looks like. And this is what boils down to give that deep red color. So this is something when you're working with herbs, and for years eating living foods, I had cut out teas, right? Just really, really strict. But when it comes to a lot of the bark, there are some things in order to extract properties from them that actually need to be boiled. So this is the Chinese root or chapchini or chini. So it's also called Smilax China. It's a potent medicinal plant and it's valued greatly also in traditional Ayurveda as well as Chinese medicine. So I think that was really interesting. These are rhizomes or roots, right? And they possess analgesic and anti-inflammatory properties, right? It's a diuretic. So I found also in my research that folks that have elephantitis, this is used for that. If you're holding on to and retaining a lot of water, it's considered a stimulant, a carminative. I forget what carminative means. Laxative. I found I didn't have any laxative effects, so maybe you need to do a stronger dosage. I wasn't looking for a laxative, but has tonic properties. It's highly now. Check this out. China root is highly valued for treating several venereal disorders as well as skin-related conditions. Now, isn't that interesting? So the yellow colored dye, they say yellow, but I found it comes out more like a deep red. It's obtained from the leaves. Now, right now, I'm using just the root, which is a deeper red, right? And the leaves are widely used for commercial purposes, right? That dye, while the roots, right, are dry and light with a bitter taste. I didn't find it was bitter, and said that it has a hot potency. I didn't find it hot. The topical application of chapchini when people, the China root, when they put it inside, let's say oils or other things, is used for psoriasis and skin problems. There's a lot of other stuff that I thought was really interesting as far as how this particular herb is used. So um, I think about it often. I think especially in the early morning. I think just keep it real. There are so many people, so many humans that have a lot of disease, right? Or STIs. I mean, stronger than STIs. A lot of different diseases, which makes me think, like, why? I often wonder why people are not scared. Why people are not scared of deeply afflicting or infecting their reproductive organs, right? As a woman, as a natural born woman with a womb, we do know now for sure that a lot of the different types of things that you can contract in terms of engaging indiscriminately can put you more at risk for cancer, right? There are a lot of progressions of these different diseases, right? So I wonder why people are not more scared. And sometimes when I think about it, and I'm not a prude by any means, um, but there are a lot of new strains of STDs and STIs out. Why are people not more scared? And one of the things I think of is the hypnotic effect of these fantastic beats and music. It is really hypnotic. And for us to be following, or for humans to be following current celebrities, especially when I think of current rap music, I think is extremely catastrophic. There's a lot of not a, a lot. There's not a lot of discernment happening when it comes to vetting what or a process of a check and balance, like a real discovery process, a real investigative process before you give something access to your purse, your panties, your pocketbook, your reproductive organs, to your psyche. Um, it seems we go very much by only what something looks like and totally or very much we totally turn a blind eye. It seems like we turn a blind eye to character or giving entities or people enough time to get to know them before we give them entrance, right? Before we eat their food, and we're so blindly trusting, we're so easily lulled into giving access to what is precious and what could really alter our lives. So I wonder why people are not more scared. And so the person who I got the herb, the China root from, and again, this is what it looks like when it boils. So I'm not using the leaves, I'm using the bark, which is dried. So this you do have to boil for those folks that have a focus on living foods and whatever ratios you use or whatever labels you want to put on yourself. I don't think it's so much about the labels, right? I think it's really about the result, and it's your personal journey, just like your hair and your fitness. You'll get I don't think there's any way around personal experimentation, and over time you'll come to your sweet spot. But back to this herb, I thought it was interesting. The gentleman who I got the bark from, he didn't make note. You know, he told me in whatever in English what the root was used for, and it had just a little piece of paper in terms of just a little blip of information about the herb. So I'm going to research on my own and to find that this herb is so effective in BDs, right? I thought was amazing. So it just got me to thinking. I'm sure there are many people that would go to shamans or traditional herbalists when they're having issues with their reproductive organs. I mean, that has to be a major complaint. Though I observe just with eyes, I've been on the planet for a minute. I think that there, of course, would be a lot of shame, especially for women around these things. But it doesn't seem to come up when we are being very loose and giving access to our reproductive organs, taking instructions from these rap artists, right? And from celebrities. It's like, I find it's like, it's alarming and it's even frightening, right? So it's good to know there are herbs out there, right? But just like with your health, the herbs are not going to, they're not a panacea in terms of, this is not a substitute for what you keep putting in. If you're taking spirulina in green juice, but you don't change your consumption, you keep putting the toxic things in. You keep allowing the unvetted people with behavior that is loose and toxic. You keep giving it access to yourself. So how much can blood purifiers work if you don't stop putting the toxic things into your body? As someone has had a tremendous amount of acne and hyperpigmentation, right? I'm not the hair or the makeup police, though I will say someone that has experienced a lot of acne, I really feel a sense of relief and I really like enjoying my natural skin that can breathe. It's just intuitive. It just feels natural. I want my skin to breathe. Years ago, when I was going to charm slash finishing school, one of the first black charm schools, I remember a really elegant instructor. She was instructing me on, applying makeup because, I did a lot of presentations and sales and modeling and all that. And she recommended that I use makeup to protect my skin. Now, I'm sure, excuse me, she was very well meaning and I get where she was coming from. But it did not resonate for me and I suppose my eyes are really tuned to the natural health of my body. It didn't ring to me as healthy, covering up my skin and my pores when this is a large eliminative organ. So for presentation, when you're going into the corporate arena, I get for photo shoots, I get the makeup. But it just, to be quite honest, it didn't resonate with me. So, I wore the makeup. Maybe sometimes I'll wear makeup. It's not my preference, though. To be quite honest, I have an active lifestyle. And so an active lifestyle is my core value. Also, having so much acne and going to professional spaces, I would, you'd put a cover. You got so many layers of makeup today, like so many layers. It just occurs to me like plastic. Like I can't see myself being able to breathe. But you got a cover stick here. You've got color corrector there. It's a lot of oxides and a lot of toxic chemicals. So I get, and I've heard and I remember, as a younger woman thinking, okay, you get chosen if you have a certain type of presentation. But also, I'm just very clear, not being able to feel comfortable in my own skin. I take issue with that. It feels to me, it occurs to me like a type of prison, and I get it. For sales and beauty is definitely a tool. We respond. I like beautiful things. I like, symmetry and all of that. But to not be able to be comfortable in my skin, especially if my body and my skin is telling me it's clogged, which is telling me something about my liver, I know that my body needs to go through a healing process, which is really the body knows what to do and how to get rid of that stuff. But if you stop the process by putting more and more stuff in it on top of it, and the body can't keep up, right? All the herbs and the natural digestion, you can't keep up the rate at which we keep accosting and stuffing the body full of all of this stuff. It just doesn't make sense. And this stuff, it seems like this is so simple. This is so simple, but as humans, we have to make things hard. And so, what I can share is sometimes when people ask me about my skin, um, I don't use any products on my skin, which is amazing. I used to be very, very scared of oil. And someone with a lot of, if you have a lot of acne, if you have certain issues, that's very uncomfortable that you would do anything to get rid of this acne. And I tried everything natural and unnatural. It can make you feel kind of, anxious. But I don't use any products on my skin. I used to be afraid of oil because to me, conditioning in the commercials, oil meant clogging or meant more pimples. But that actually wasn't the case. It was all of the potato chips, and I was a junk food junkie. It was all of the junk food that I had put into my body years and years from a little girl. So much candy corn, cherry chan, Alexander the Grape, so much potato chips, so much Doritos, so much Dipsy Doodles, so much crunchy cheese doodles, so much puffy cheese doodles, so many 25-cent bags of candy, so much M&M's plain and peanut. Oh, I used to love those M&M's plain. I forgot about those. I ate so much stuff that actually wasn't food. So, and let's not forget the pizzas and the calzones and, someone with a cultural profile that's African American and Caribbean, Southern and Caribbean. I came up with two different flavors of pig feet. So much saturated fat, so much fried chicken. The Caribbean fried chicken is tasty. The flavors and the texture. There was so much grease and oil, so much oil that was reused over and over, which is a carcinogen, right? That oil that gets used over and over. When you heat oil, I used to sell olive oil for a living. When you heat oils to a certain point past their smoking point, they start to burn. And so then we have the flesh that we're cooking them in, and then we reuse it over and over because we're saving, we're being thrifty. But that stuff is actually, I remember that's one of the first things I learned in my health journey. I was like, oh my gosh, because I was looking on the counter as I learned this stuff at the old recycled jars that my grandpa and my family would recycle the oil because it was expensive, or the lard, right? And it's not to make those bad things bad or wrong in terms of the intention, but education is so important. And I think we're easily lulled into complacency, yet it's our responsibility. Our health is our responsibility. So, in any event, being a junk food junkie, doing a lot of experimentation over the years, I will say that 80% living foods did not clear up my skin, which means that not just my skin, that means my organs. We have a tendency to think very topically, very aesthetically. Same thing with exercise. You're thinking about muscles, but you're not thinking about the function. So that's how we get prone to a lot of injuries. We're not thinking holistically. So we have a very, what I would call, split mind, right? So we'll buy, for example, all of these green powders. I used to work at a holistic health center. We'll buy all these green powders and do all these juices and then turn right around and eat a whole box of cheese nibs or cookies or vegan cookies, right? So you can't catch up with the detox, more retox, detox to retox. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. Many of us may be ignorant, not necessarily the same thing as stupid, so ignorant of how these principles are working and in denial. And the things that are marketed to us don't make the situation any better because a lot of times we want to be told things that make us feel better. We want folks or companies, we feel better when companies give us beautiful marketing campaigns, especially now that we're including in some of the visuals of these campaigns. We want them to tell us good things about the habits that we have of self-soothing, right? I saw something the other day that made so much sense. It's not so much different perspective. It's not so much that we're addicted to drugs and alcohol, right? Consider this: we're more addicted to escaping reality, and that just says it. It made me think like it's why I personally, and I don't tell grown folks what to do. I do not care for drugs and alcohol, any of them, because I have watched personally drugs and alcohol, right, that need or desire to escape mental pain, the intangibles of discomfort, old looping memories and trauma. I have watched it take out so many members of my family and my community that I find it a turn off. The smell, I find, and I've been in all different types of circles. I externed at one of the top restaurants in New York, but I find it distasteful, the end result. And I've often wondered what is the distinction, the line between social drinking and what point does it become alcoholism? So in personal training, having high-end clients, I have watched clients that have access to the best train. They have access to going to Canyon Ranch and the best of the best, the trainers, the esthetician, the massage therapist. And I've watched different habits over the years, holistic health center, as a personal trainer, all different types of clients. I'm an observer of patterns. So I've watched people that eat good quality food, right? But I've watched the alcohol dry their skin out and make them look very, very aged. Do I want that? No, I'm looking at my results. I watch the end results of drugs and alcohol. So although we are a species that follow, we like to fit in. I'm humbled by it. I study junkies all the time. I've been saying that for years. And I study that because I'm very fascinated by the mentality and the mental processing of self-sabotage, as well as what is the thought process of self-actualization, right? Who seems to have the least amount of resistance or blockage to fully expressing, creating whatever kind of experience they want to have in life, and who is sabotaged and stunted by trauma, basically the things that you can't see with your eyes. So I'm always watching the patterns. So who gets the most results and whose results are sustainable, and there are some distinct patterns. So I have zero desire for drugs and alcohol. I don't care how much people want to call it. And I've got rocks in my family, people I love very dearly that smoke. I have smoke in my lungs. It makes zero sense. Poison. There's nothing for me. I have the eyes of Grandma Lou, right? Simple. I don't need 20 million people. I don't care about the studies. When I observe consistent patterns and results, that's what I'm looking at. You can call yourself vegan, raw vegan. I don't care. I'm looking at character. I'm looking at health. I'm looking at vitality. I'm looking at longevity. I'm looking at what's pain free. Period. I don't care if you're a medical doctor. I do. I'm a constant nerd scientist. So if I felt something was healthier for me, that's what I would eat. And I've gone all the whole gamut from standard American and Caribbean and African American diet to vegetarian to vegan to being introduced to raw vegan cuisine in 1994. And then my son's dad started feeding him fish, and I went back to fish and some poultry as I was doing fitness competitions, and then came right back around to raw foods, which I like to say whole fresh living foods, over 13, it's going to 13 years. And so even now I'm incorporating more broth, so things like the chaya, right? I can't eat that raw. So that got me thinking also the temperature of foods, warm broth, um, feels very comforting to me. So I'm very intuitive to how food makes me feel. I am very results oriented. Life is going to happen, though my biggest investment is my health insurance. I don't play with that. That is a core value. I'm willing to pay the money for my health because prevention is better than cure. I don't like pain. I don't like separation. So I'm crystal clear. I don't need to have conversations, somebody trying to convince me. There's a lot of stuff you can't pay me to do, right? Because I didn't like all that money I spent for proactive benzoyl peroxide, salicylic acid, having to put makeup on sometimes, being in front of class. I don't like that. So only you can say it's your journey. I used to have Jerry Curl on the go-to. So I'm nobody's judge, right? So it's not for us to be more divisive with food. It's just like your hair. It's a journey. It's your personal journey. So back again to these blood building foods. Again, these are the three. Here's the China root. Here's the broth from the chaya, the callaloo and the beet skins, and here is the sorrel. Right. So I'm very into. I like to think of what would my great grandmother be doing. They didn't have CBS. They didn't have all of this stuff. They didn't have money, so they had to use what's in their yard. So I like to think that that's my thought process, that they wouldn't be wasting food. First of all, out in my little garden, I can see it takes me 3 to 4 months to come to a full harvest, right? And some women are getting ready to come down. We might have about 10 women coming down in June. In June to spend time for fitness and living foods and all that other stuff. So I know there's a time scale by which certain things have to go into the garden. I know I'm going to go into from a wet season to a dry season. All of these things in terms of the catchphrase holistically, I have to take all these things into play. Don't you think your great grandmothers were thinking like this? So we have the opportunity to really um, leverage and curate social media so we can extract a lot from it. Or if we're not conscientious, it can really dumb us down because we become so, I think it makes sense. We wanted to feel better, but in a desperation, right? And a lot with so much trauma, we're looking for relief. And without being having a vetting process, it triggers us. Some of the things that are, a lot of the entertainment is triggering us, and it makes us vulnerable to blindly choosing things that compromise our health and our discernment, if that makes sense, right? So all I have to say, I don't care to eat food that does not benefit my body. At this point, it could taste, I know there's certain things that taste delicious, but it occurs to me differently. A lot of the things I used to eat, I don't consider them food for me anymore. And that's huge. I'm so humbled. I was a junk food junkie. I would be on a trajectory of morbid obesity, diabetes, heart disease, like the rest of my family. I had the acne to prove it. And it's not about the acne. I know that my liver and my organs were suffering from me eating all of that junk, right? And so in the Afro community, we don't think so much of like, I wasn't trying to throw up my food. We have different things. We don't consider them disorders, and I don't like to put labels on myself. Though I will say, as an observer of patterns from a young girl, I could start to distinguish patterns of behavior of how people are looking to make themselves feel better with food and narcotics and alcohol, and I could see the results from heroin to the folks, across the hall that their hands were big like boxing gloves and they didn't have any more space to stick the needles in their hands. To my grandpa, his lungs gone from smoking more red. He used to give me some 50 cents or 25 cents to 50 cents to go to the store and get a cigarette. But I could see that people were using these substances to self-soothe. So to approach someone, right, or the thought you're taking away the only comfort. We may not want to, you can let me know what you think respectfully, but for people to think of surrendering their buttered popcorn, I was addicted to everything. Buttered popcorn, I wasn't into alcohol or cigarettes, but buttered popcorn or your Entenmann's cakes. My mother used to love Entenmann's crumb cakes. All these different things. That's like letting go of the drugs, the soft drugs, I'll call them, that you're using to make yourself feel better. And we may not think of these things as addictive, they're highly addictive. How do we get to a point where over 70% of the US population is unhealthfully overweight? Unhealthfully. And I would say, as I speak to my clients and the women that train with me every morning at 5 a.m., we do the physical coaching, but it's also a mental component. So it's for us to be very conscientious of the conflict of interest, that things that are being marketed to us. That's our responsibility. Just like any political figure, religious figure, any social media figure, it is our responsibility to be very discerning, right? And not just go with, oh, I love this person because I like 2 or 3 things they said. I like their hair, or I like their body, or I like their singing voice. And totally turn off and neglect our common sense. We don't give things enough time, right? We're not paying attention to the cues that are right in front of us. So programming is a real thing. Us following and copying things, copying people is a real thing. Us doing things to fit along and go with the group, it's a real thing. We like to think that we are above the other animals, but we're still a type of animal. And we are very easily influenced. Many of us might eat goo, but they put some red sauce on it and deodorize it. We eat almost anything, even though it has labels that it's toxic, and we put these things into our body. So that if we're honest, there's not a lot of discernment going on right now, right? So, in a nutshell, if it's not real food or if it's not going to benefit my body, I don't want it. Now, I like flavor and taste just as much as anybody, and if I didn't have a lot of food to look forward to, I don't know that I would have been able to get off of that. I might be obese. I would likely be on the trajectory of taking needles, and I don't like needles. So me having things and treats to look forward to has been very, very important. It's a huge part of my lifestyle, and being creative with food has really allowed me to relax, knowing I have things to look forward to consume. But over years, with lots of education and having pleasant experiences with real food, I can relax. And that is how I have been able to loosen that hold of eating things that are not good for my body. And I'm so relieved. I'm so grateful. If you don't have a copy already, if you want a shortcut or to shorten your learning curve, right? Because a lot of shortcuts, you still have to do the work and the unpacking, right? And organizing your brain. But if you want insight into how I'm able to switch my mind, or have been able to, from being someone that was really a junk food junkie, check out and download Whole Living Foods in the Hood with Menus to Fit Your Budget. I put in there, my goal was to answer a lot of the questions that people have asked me over the years. Don't you ever drink coffee? Don't you ever drink alcohol? No, I don't. And again, that's not to down anyone else that does something different. It's for you to know what works for your body and what doesn't, right? So I can be in a room full of people. It could be Jesus, it could be my mother serving it. I'm not going to eat certain things to please other people, because I'm the one that had to suffer from the acne. I'm the one that would have to take the needle. I'm the one that would have to be on the medication, right? And so whole fresh living and unprocessed food are huge, huge in your toolbox, in addition to your daily movement practice and garden/nature therapy. There's three simple principles. They seem so simple that people greatly underestimate what could give you the biggest transformation and also sustainable, regardless of whatever your budget or your living situation is. If you have enough space in your home for an exercise mat, you have the capacity to administer deep, deep therapy to yourself. And I read over 25 years ago in my research that movement or exercise could be just as effective as therapy. Therapy wasn't popular then like it is now, but I was like, bet. Then I want to do what's going to make me feel better. And I discovered what I can do on my own if I didn't have people, which I didn't, around me that were also on the same that had the same interest in health and vitality, right? So that has never failed me. It continues to be a consistent core of my self-care. I even would say I prefer, I like fashion too, but I'll take healthy functioning organs and a healthy body and healthy skin where I don't have to have makeup and fitness any day over makeup palettes and more clothes, right? Life gets a lot simpler and that ease. We deserve to feel comfortable in our own hair and skin. I like to feel comfortable and at ease. I want things to be more streamlined and stress-free. So I'll take the health first, right? I'm looking for the vitality and the longevity. I want to be intentionally, I want to enjoy my hair and my skin and my body temple in my 60s, right? That's several years. I'll be in my, and into my 70s and 80s. I want to enjoy my body temple as pain-free as possible, as independent as possible when my hair is white. It's going to go white one day. My hair's going to go white. Aging is a part of the process of life. That is only in recent years that there's this shame around aging. That's not my culture. That's not me. I don't want that. I don't want that. I want to enjoy the maturation process, the seasoning process, right? Because a lot of my wisdom from life experience, and I'm smart enough to know I don't know everything, but a lot of my life experience has been hard earned. So at this point of life, I want to relax and enjoy my hair and skin. And so I don't need so much of the external validation, right? This channel now has 3,000 subscribers, been on here for years, but I knew from the beginning this wasn't like a numbers game because there's an ever constant moving goalpost, just like with the so-called made-up standard of beauty that people are sitting inside of a boardroom making this stuff up as they go along and gaslighting us, to buy products, right? With smiling faces on the packages, right? So I'm very, very clear that it's a conflict of interest. The only one with a real vested, committed interest in the personalized prescription for what I need to thrive, not just survive and survive, what I need to thrive. The only one that has a vested interest in that is me, not strangers on the internet, not men, not women, not influencers, right? That the only one with a vested interest that doesn't have a conflict of interest is going to be me. So it's my responsibility, not a spouse, not a friend, not Obama, not Jesus, not Jesus. It's my health is my responsibility. And I keep continually making daily deposits because life is going to happen. So should something happen, I want my body and my immune system to be able to bounce back. So I can tell you 1,000%, my body, I'm reaping the benefits of these consistent deposits over the years from my young flowers. I invite you not to wait if you decide to be a parent, to wait to be a parent to start to get your body healthy, right? So we can go into this for years, on and on. But I would say also today this is overdue now, the amount of autism and defects we're seeing. We're not really being responsible because we're indiscriminately out of panic. We're finding any old random person to have to foster children and to parent with. Their health is not on point. Our health is not on point. There's been no care and concern. Most are not intentionally creating the child. They're not years before prioritizing what they're eating, right? And we know right now we have genetic memory in the cell. We have memory. So your trauma, your food, your cigarettes, all of this, no offense to my weed smokers, but all of this stuff, the need to constantly medicate yourself. No one is thinking about the brain, the structural brain cell integrity of the next generation. So it's getting weaker and weaker and weaker. Many men folks are overusing their reproductive organs. Women are allowing a lot of roughness, lack of care, and intimacy into their reproductive organs. This stuff is so simple. So it's humbling just how much we are easily influenced. We allow ourselves to be influenced. And then it's not a core value for many people to invest in their health. I figured that out years ago, decades ago, to invest in my first personal trainer was one of my first major checks working at a corporation. Because I was like, why am I in the gym and this lady's in the gym? We look different if we're both here. There must be something I don't know. So I was willing to pay for that information. And that has been a principle for years. If I want certain information for coaches, I use coaches all the time. I'm willing to invest, right? I watched, on one of the lives this week, people will constantly get on and say, what do I do for tummy fat? Like there's so much information. Sometimes I wonder what is people's thought process. So trying to go around and get a free quick fix, that's why it doesn't work, right? Because there's no shortchanging understanding or getting present with the mindset of what we're doing to self-soothe and starting to investigate other things that make us feel better other than just physical food and cookies and treats, right? Where the treats and the TV has become your boyfriend, your girlfriend, and your lover. The weed or the alcohol has become your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or your lover. What are these housewives, whatever these shows are, have become your gurus, online personalities who folks allow to berate them and disrespect them. It's nuts. But welcome to the human psyche 2024. So we're about being proactive over here and what is there that we can do, right? If it's real food, your body knows what to do with real food and with movement and with sleep. So the 3 lifestyle practices, again, that I share on this channel are peaceful consumption, food that demonstrates that it loves you back, not clogging up your arteries. It's kind to your arteries, kind to your colon, kind to your skin, not just a party of flavor in your mouth, right? You got to be very careful. That's where allowing ourselves to be dumbed down, just at a sensory. And then no regard for what happens after it passes your throat. So-called intelligent beings, right? And so, what's your litmus test for what you're allowing in? Peaceful consumption, garden/nature therapy, community garden, your windowsill plants. It has a way of triggering you to calm, in contrast to triggering you to anxiety eating and anxiety consumption with no discrimination, right? And then your daily personal movement practice. There is nothing that makes me feel the way that a movement practice does. Before your body changes, this changes first, right? Every day with consistent movement, you're giving your subconscious, right, which is driving most of our behavior. You're giving your subconscious evidence of your ability to push through what is uncomfortable, right? You're demonstrating to yourself that you won't leave yourself, that you won't stand yourself up on a date, that you're willing to get uncomfortable for change. Think about what's missing here. Think about it. I invite you to consider what's missing. All right, so I'm going to hop off here. Let me know, are you familiar with China root or Chinese root or the other names that we talked about earlier, or beet and chia? Are you familiar with these things? Sorrel, maybe perhaps many of you are familiar with. So this is Body-Culinary. Today is market day. I'm always excited about the market. I have farmers I stop at all the time. It is like a social event. Even the food co-op for years, shout out to the Foxborough Food Co-op, has always been a social event for me, as well as daily movement. So how is your movement practice going so far? We're moving every day this year. Did you download a positive accountability calendar, or do you have a calendar or journal so you can keep track, right? Because if it's not on your calendar, it's not real, right? If you do an accurate accounting of how you're spending your money and your time, that really tells us what our true religion is and what we're committed to. That's going to demonstrate what our core values are. So feel free to join me. I'll post and share some of the workout portion, the warm-up, which is a movement practice in and of itself. every day at 5 a.m. If you're interested in fully training with me, reach out to me, info@body-culinary.com. If you'd like to be a part of the Flower Fit community that is focused on activities, getting into action, not just talking, getting into action around core values. So that would be the garden, daily movement, and peaceful consumption. That's reciprocal to you. And reciprocal to the shopping cart of the earth. If we keep taking and don't put back, does that make sense? So I think we can get things down to the simplest common denominator. And really, these things allow you to experience a sweet lifestyle here and now. It's what you have access to. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment. Are you familiar with these three different deep red foods at all? The sorrel, the china root, or the chaya, and the beet broth. Let me know what your thoughts are. Like, comment respectfully, subscribe. Feel free to share this video with someone that can use some motivation or some inspiration. And before I jump off of here, I invite you to consider, in terms of leverage, I love leverage, the shortcut. If you're decluttering or you're doing your stretching, right? There's nothing like support and community. It's one of my secret weapons. It's what works. I like to do what works. Feel free to replay this video and a series of videos that are on this channel to keep you company as you are decluttering. If you stay in the conversation, that's how you stimulate your mind, right, to new ideas around your lifestyle, around your consumption patterns. What you're listening to, what you're eating are instructions. They're instructions. I'm inviting you to create a great day on purpose, full of purpose, simply because you said so. Feel free to join me on this journey of supporting ourselves through personal transformation. And you can check out Body-Culinary. Subscribe, put the notifications on, because somebody was saying they missed the interview with the woman, sister from Brazil, from Bahia. So if you missed it, catch the replay on this channel, and there'll be other things I'm up to. I like to come on when it's something that I feel is beneficial or meaningful. So put the notifications on. Body-Culinary is on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Leave It on Facebook. So follow along on the journey, and I will see you soon.